This episode of Pool Magazine Podcast is proudly sponsored by PoolMarketing.com, the leading digital marketing agency for the pool and spa industry. Specializing in lead generation for pool builders and swimming pool maintenance providers, we offer a wide array of services to help pool companies reach their target audience. Whether you're looking for a firm to manage your company's marketing, increase brand awareness, or drive qualified leads to increase your sales, Pool Marketing can help. Are you ready to take your pool business to the next level? Hop online and schedule a free one-on-one marketing consultation with us today.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Trusty, and with me today is Nikki Acosta and Jack Nelson from Skimmer, a leading software app designed to help pool service companies run their businesses more efficiently. It's a pleasure to have you both with us today on the show.
Joe, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Aside from how impressive your software platform is, we've seen a lot of great data coming out of Skimmer lately. Tons of useful information in the State of the Industry report your company just produced. We recently published it in our latest issue of Pool Magazine. And that report was based on a comprehensive analysis based on your 25,000 users and the 1,700 pool industry professionals who directly responded. I love that it covered the different market challenges, business structures, pricing strategies, tech adoption, and growth plans of pool professionals from around the nation.
Look, Joe, our goal at Skimmer is to be far more than a software company. In fact, our purpose and from day one has always been to build a platform that empowers pool and spa businesses to grow great businesses. And so we think providing them with data that helps them run their business, all aspects of their business, is just a sort of a natural extension of that.
Today, we're going to be discussing the service index rate you guys recently published. But before we dive deep into that, I thought a good starting point for our conversation today would be if you both gave our listeners an overview about who you guys are, who Skimmer is, and what your firm is all about.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. So Jack Nelson, I'm the CEO of Skimmer. I have been since we invested in the company about almost 4 years ago now. Like I said, Skimmer is a platform for pool service professionals. We have companies that are just getting started, a lot of one-poolers. We've got companies that are servicing thousands, or I guess tens of thousands of pools using our technology. And technology is a big piece of who we are, but we also have about 50 employees now across North America that are committed to helping our customers understand how to use the software, helping them understand how to grow their businesses. We're creating a lot of content like the service rate index that we'll talk about, but a ton of other content that we're trying to equip our customers with. In fact, some cases are non-customers with, just so they can understand trends in the industry and how to really grow their businesses. So that's kind of at core who Skimmer is. We're truly trying to transform this industry and improve it every day. And I'll let Nikki give her background.
Yeah, I'm Nikki Acosta. I've been at Skimmer for just over 2.5 years. When I started here, I think I was hire number 12 or 13, something like that. And it's been an absolute pleasure and a joy to see Skimmer grow. Some of your listeners might recognize me from our webinars and director of marketing, but I wear a lot of hats here, including joining podcasts like this one.
Well, thanks for that background and bio. Can you explain the methodology behind this new Skimmer Service Rate Index and how you guys collect and manage to aggregate all that data?
Yeah, sure. So we're in a pretty unique position in that our software has the capability to log what pros are charging and by what model they're charging for chems or not chems. So we've got over 6,500 zip codes in the US amongst our base of over 700,000 pools. And through that data, we know what people are charging per stop, per month, if they're including chems, if they're not including chems. And we can analyze that data by zip code, by county, and by state. And so for purposes of the service rate index that we made available to the public, we have taken that anonymized data and compiled it in a way that allows pros to look up state level data.
It's very easy to visualize, and I was really impressed with the little application that you put together on the website. But tell me, what are some of the key findings from the service rate index, and why is this useful information for pool pros to have?
Well, I think one thing that really stood out to me is, there is a lot of variability in how and what people charge, not only at a state level, but in municipalities or metroplexes, we see that consistently states like Florida tend to lag behind in pricing in areas of the Southeast. We also see that areas kind of in the Northeast region tend to charge a lot more. They have much shorter pool seasons, and so they have pool openings, 4 months of service or 3.5 months of service, and then pool closings. And so those models are kind of create what we can see as different pricing based on the levels of service that are provided across the US.
Yeah, and I'll add, as you think about different models, there's also the plus cams or including cams per stop per month. And there's just a lot of wealth of information that allows folks to see like what's the norm in a certain market, and especially as we publish these every year. I mean, we have the data, so we're seeing it. What are trends? And there's certainly some trends that are interesting that I think a lot of the industry should be aware of.
Yeah, I'll say in Florida, we see a majority of companies there are including chems, but you go to markets like Phoenix or Southern California, and it's pretty split. You have large swaths of people that include chems and some that don't. And then, of course, there's kind of a hybrid model of companies in between that will include some chemicals, but not all chemicals or not specialty chemicals. So this is a very useful way of kind of looking at those different models and being able to compare them apples to apples. One thing that we have found too is that people who are charging plus chems on average are actually charging more for base service than people that include chems. So there's some anomalies in that data, but I think a lot of it just goes to show that there is a lot of variability in markets all over the US.
Well, maybe I can get you to expand and elaborate on that. I mean, how do you feel regional differences may impact pool service pricing? And what are those trends that you've observed? I mean, can you dive deeper into that?
I think weather has a huge impact on chem cost. In areas of the South where we've seen, record temperatures, chemical usage is much higher in those areas than they would be in other places. And so if your model is not accommodating those extra chem costs, then it is very possible that you could be operating at a lower margin than you would in people that have different climates. So I think that's certainly one big factor. We've seen, chlorine prices kind of go up all across the country, but even looking at chlorine costs, it's highly variable from state to state. So while this isn't going to tell a full picture of chemical usage and margins and profitability, it does lead us to believe that there is some weather impact to chemical usage and profitability for sure.
Yeah, and there's other factors like the density of pools and how tight the routes are. Like Austin, for example, where Nikki and I live, Austin, Texas is one of the more expensive markets in the country for pool service. And I mean, we see rates 2, almost 3x here that we do in Florida with some of our customers. And part of it is if you have a tight route, and obviously software like Skimmer can help with that, tighten the route, but just the distance you're having to travel, right? If you're having to travel 10 miles between stops, that's going to drive up your fuel cost and your labor cost. Size of pools is another big factor, right? And they say everything's bigger in Texas, including the pools, right? And so you have bigger pools, it can cost more to service. In certain markets like Phoenix, for example, there's pools, seems like, every other house, but a lot of them are a lot smaller. So the cost of service tends to be lower.
Can you guys elaborate a little bit on the different rate types and how you collect that data?
Yeah, sure. So Skimmer is unique in that when a pool professional enters a customer in, they can specify how that customer wants to be billed or how they're going to bill for that customer, whether it be per stop or per month, and whether or not it includes chemicals or if chemicals are an additional charge. And so what this report does in the service rate index is it pulls from those different fields and we aggregate that data and share it in an anonymized format.
What are some of the challenges that you guys faced in collecting and analyzing data from over 25,000 users? And you guys do what, like 700,000 pools a month, right?
Yes, certainly one challenge is the data is only as good as what the pool pros are entering. And so, we can look at the data and know that there are some obvious errors. Like if somebody has, a per month rate of $25, like we know that's probably inaccurate. So we've removed some of the outliers. The other challenge is, we don't always know if a pool or a location that's being serviced is commercial or residential. So we also, for the most part, remove the outliers. so that we're not including, large, commercial locations and trying to do an apples to apples comparison for residential, which is where most of our customers find their business.
How do external factors such as like changing economic conditions that we've seen over the past 2 years influence rates in the pool service index?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the short answer is rates have gone up, costs have gone up, obviously significantly across the board, and most of our customers have increased their prices accordingly to the point where we've actually seen in the last couple of years a lot of our customers become a lot more profitable. And certainly on a per unit basis, but even across the company. And in some cases, it's by getting rid of some of the unprofitable accounts and those accounts who, the pool owner would balk at a price increase. It's like, well, maybe those aren't the right customers for you. Your costs are going up. Why should you not be charging more for your service? And so we've seen it kind of go lockstep to where there's been a meaningful price increase across the board in the last 2 years, and that's across the entire country.
We had to do a soundbite and an elevator pitch here. I mean, what insights can pool service pros gain from the service rate index to improve their pricing strategies?
Wow, soundbite. There's a lot of data in there. I think part of it is just you need to decide what you want to be. Do you want to be the low cost provider in your market, or do you want to be the quality service provider? So I think just figuring that out where you want to play. We would of course encourage people to not try to be the low cost provider and charge for the value that they're delivering. We think there's a lot of information on there around, hey, what's the most efficient way to pay? There's a trend to get away from checks and cash and go to credit card. And we're seeing that in a lot of the data, not just in this index, but other surveys we do with our customers. So it's sort of like, hey, let's modernize your business and find ways to stay ahead of the trends, both in terms of how much you charge, how you accept payment, et cetera.
How do you envision expanding this platform in the years to come? And what additional information would you like to be able to provide in the future?
Yeah, one thing that we talked about even as recently as this week is being able to give our customers a gauge of how they compare to others in their area. So let's say you go to the platform, you enter a location with a zip code, maybe there's a slider that tells you what percentile you fall into as far as where you're priced. So that's not something we're currently working on, so I don't want to make a promise that's coming anytime soon, but it is possible, longer term with the type of data that we collect. And I think such an exercise would elevate the industry as a whole.
Well, it's clear that there's a wealth of information that could be mined from the data. But tell me, guys, how can pool service providers get better visibility over their customers and their accounts using your platform?
Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. One of the great things about Skimmer is it collects all of the data and saves it in a way that can feed into reports that are very, very useful when you're running your business. So for example, when you set up a pool, you can set up the chemicals that you want to use, the unit of measurement that you want to use, and you can assign a cost value and what you're going to charge your customer for that chemical. And all of that data gets saved and can be analyzed and referenced over time. So it gives our pros a really good way to figure out like, hey, is this pool profitable? Do I have a tech on my team who is dosing significantly higher? Do I have pools that are consistently out of range, which could be indicative of a leak? So there's a lot of business intelligence that can be gained by simply having the data and being able to view those reports.
Jack, do you want to expand on that?
Well, what Nikki said is spot on. And I guess I would add for Skimmer customers that are also using our billing product, there's also the opportunity to ensure that they're not forgetting to bill for certain products or certain chemicals, if it's a model including chems. And we get that feedback all the time from our customers is, oh my God, we were significantly undercharging our customers. We didn't even realize it until A, we started entering all of the data into Skimmer, and B, we started billing via Skimmer because we're just not forgetting to bill for certain things. And again, these customers are becoming much more profitable as a result, and just looking at their business differently. We also have, Nikki talked about the pool level data. We also have aggregate data that helps them just analyze their business in a different way.
Yeah, and finally, I think there's the customer communication piece. We've heard from so many people. The word I hear over and over is this has been a game changer in terms of customer communication. Every time you service a pool, we're going to send out an automated report with the readings, with the dosages, and with photos that have to be taken live while at the pool. You cannot upload them from a photo roll. And that gives customers a really good feeling to know that, hey, my professional was there. They did what they were supposed to do. The checklist items are shown on my report. I know exactly what they put in the pool. I know exactly what the readings were. That also helps too if someone, let's say, has a new pool and there's a plaster claim. Now instead of pointing fingers at your pool service pro and blaming bad chemistry, you can actually go back and show them the chemistry for the full time that you've been servicing the pool. Like that data is there and available and can really help cover you in the event of one of those scenarios.
Nikki, I haven't even told you this. I just went to one of the largest pool service companies in Austin. I just happened to drive by there. I stopped in. They're servicing, they said, thousands of pools every week, and they don't use software. They're doing it with pen and paper. And the amount of files they had in their office and the amount of people that they have managing those paper files and the whiteboards and all of that, it was kind of shocking. I mean, it's impressive they're even able to do it, but just think about the cost savings associated with automating a business, let alone the customer satisfaction angle that Nikki talked about. It is a game changer.
Yeah, if you're servicing 1,000 pools and you're forgetting to charge for O-rings and pressure gauges and skimmer baskets, I mean, all of that stuff ultimately adds up. And so I think it's to anyone's benefit in the pool industry, even if you're not using our software, use some kind of software that can help you track that kind of stuff.
A lot of pool pros still doing things the old school way, but I've had a chance to look at the platform. It's really impressive. Nikki, Jack, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us about Skimmer and the service rate index. Really valuable information, and really enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, and if someone wants to see the service rate index for themselves, you can do so by visiting getskimmer.com/resources.
Yeah, and Joe, thanks for having us on, and appreciate all that you continue to do for the industry as well.
Well, that's all the time we have left today. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and we'll catch you next time on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast.
This episode of Pool Magazine Podcast is proudly sponsored by poolmarketing.com, the leading digital marketing agency for the pool and spa industry. Specializing in lead generation for pool builders and swimming pool maintenance providers, we offer a wide array of services to help pool companies reach their target audience. Whether you're looking for a firm to manage your company's marketing, increase brand awareness, or drive qualified leads to increase your sales, Pool Marketing can help. Are you ready to take your pool business to the next level? Hop online and schedule a free one-on-one marketing consultation with us today.